So craziness happening all over the world, but don't let it distract you of what's happening here. And what I mean by that is, how's your money? What are you doing with your cash? How are you keeping it safe? Are you saving money? Are you spending way too much? Are you living off credit card debts? That's all the things to think about. Well, today we're going to talk about that. What are 3 things that we should be doing with our cash now because of some of the issues that are happening? However, our focus is on Ukraine. Our focus is on Israel. Those are big deals. But let's talk about money, and let's talk about our money in America. What the situation looks like for here, because that's what impacts us more than what happens across the world. Let's jump into it. Today's video starts right now.
You and I, we got it. We don't need no more.
Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so much for being here today. The cows are going to be a little loud. They're going to bellow a little bit, but look at this little calf. Isn't he pretty? It's a little bull calf we had last night. We love the Herefords. This is our beef cattle, and it's nothing like having a beautiful, beautiful little calf to start off a beautiful day. So let's jump into today's content, talking about money and your money and the dangers of what's going on in America. So 3 things we should be doing with our money. Before we get into that, let's talk about where we're at. We are going to be at a almost $2 trillion deficit this year. Our spending is out of control. There was a study that came out that said that you will have no money by January, meaning not saying you won't have money or you won't make money. It's saying that people's savings are not going to be in existence by January. They're living off credit cards. That percentage has went up because it was 61 to 70%. Now it's climbing to 70 to 80% of individuals not having liquid cash on hand. There's been several studies showing that people's budgets are on thin ice. Have you looked at the stock market lately? It is so crazy and volatile. I looked at 3 quarterly statements I get on some of our retirements or funds and things like that, and guess what? None of them made money. They all lost money. Now I know it ebb and flows. I think we're doing a lot more ebbing than flowing. I think we're staying in the valley more than the mountaintop. So what should we be doing with our money when we see these roadblocks? And our focus is across the world, however, we're losing out here. So some major realities. Our schools are not teaching our children, so therefore what happens? Our schools then become indoctrination camps. Our kids are not educated, they can't even read. Most cities are seeing their kids not even being on 6th grade reading levels when they graduate. What does that make? That makes for a society that's not going to be educated enough to work and get high-paying jobs. What does that mean? That means more people will be on the government's dole. And what does that mean? That means the government doesn't make money. It takes money. It prints money, but printing money makes inflation. The cost of inflation and taxes is on the American people who are working. So the way we look at debt, the way we have these crises, they're actually going to affect us more, not because of your paycheck, but because of all the money that's going to have to be spent to take care of all the government stuff, the taxation, the inflation that you're going to feel, because we're in a society where we're not focusing on making our kids understand money better. So what are 3 things that we should be doing? Also teaching our children, also making sure that we are taking care of ourselves financially. What do? Number 1, we have to get on a budget. We don't teach enough budgeting to kids, to ourselves. How many of you are on a written budget? Be honest. It's such a kindergarten thing to say, well, I've got to write all my expenses down, write my income down, and we have to make sure they balance. You'd be surprised how easy it is, but how difficult it is to stay to it if you started writing a budget out. You need to start doing this. It seems very dumb, but when you do it, you'll realize how much money you're spending. You'll realize where your money's going. And therefore, when you start seeing where your money goes, it helps you control it better. I want to know where my dollars go at all times. So then therefore, if I see that my grocery bills are up, my energy's up, my whatever is up, that shows that I can't help some of those things, but I'm making help this discretionary spending. I'm making help this monthly, fee. So you have to write a budget. That's one thing you have to do, so that way you know where and how your money is spent. That's number 1. Number 2, you have to find a place to place your assets that you know won't lose. Now there's volatility all across the board, but we can't have volatility like we do in the stock market. We can't have volatility like we do in Bitcoin. One major reason I don't like either one of those for the majority of my money. The stock market ebb and flows, and yes, over time it does still make money. However, if you're on those times where it's low, like right now, if you're retiring right now, you are now taking money out of your savings or out of your retirement while the money is down and the cost of goods are up. I laugh because there was a study that came out and said that Social Security, you'll get a 3.6% raise coming soon. However, the consumer price and the inflation reaction, and also the fact of what the rates were for this month, it was showing that most consumer goods were going up 3.7 for the month of September going into October. So that just kind of washed away what raise Social Security would get. So then I go back to the stock market. So, okay, well, I can put a lot of money here and know it's safe. Well, if you're coming out of retirement and you're hitting it right, and all of a sudden all of a sudden the market's up and you've made 10 or 12% or more, that's great. But there's times that it's not up. There's times that we go through hiccups, 07, 08, 09. There's times we're going through hiccups like now. So if you're starting to deplete that out of there, you've taken loss. You're realizing the loss. So not that you don't need to have retirement, not that you don't need to have a stock market investment, but that doesn't mean you need to rely on that 100%. Just like Social Security, you don't need to rely on it 100%. What about Bitcoin? I hear that all the time. I can see where I could find value in that. Now though, BlackRock's looking at it. All these ETFs are starting to be made. The SEC is looking at it. So are we really looking at a true way of a parallel society, or are we just taking it into the fold of this new CBDC pushes? It's going to follow the same situation. I love when people call it decentralized. It relies on energy to produce the mining. It relies on energy to be able to utilize it for safe passage to the other individual. Without energy, without the grid, without the government giving you access to the internet, your Bitcoin is worthless. So is it okay to have some Bitcoin? Yes, but it is not a place where I would put all my wealth for sure. And I would not put a lot of savings in there depending on it. You know, I told you a few weeks ago, I cashed out all my crypto and all my Bitcoin. I'm done with anything like that. I just had a little bit, but I got rid of it all. It took me days to be able to access it. And that proved my point even more. I'm like, okay, if I can't even get to my money within a few days, same way with brokerage firms, if I can't get to my money or have it tangible, how valuable is it? So where are you putting your money? Well, personally, I think it's investment. I think it's real estate. I think it's land. I think it's cash. I think it's like the vehicle I bought. I sold my Bitcoin and bought an old vehicle. It's older than me. It's actually my age, to be honest with you, 36 years old. And so therefore I said, you know what, I can utilize that because it runs on an old style motor. It has no technological advancing in the motor system. It's all mechanical, pretty much everything in it. So I was able to tangibly use that, and now I can have that on my farm to be able to use instead of buying something new. I actually have one vehicle that's newer than my kid's age. All my vehicles are older than every kid we have. Why? Because we want to make sure that we're investing in something that's already, you know, depreciated in value, but now it's raising value again because it's an antique, or it's raising value again because of what it can give you, as in value added to you, such as I have a farm, so I need vehicles to be able to operate. Well, I don't want a $80,000 plastic Chevrolet, some kind of emissions issues, or it's run by a computer. I'm not really looking for that. I'm looking for old junky stuff that I can put on this farm that if a cow hits it, it's pure metal, it's not going anywhere, and if it needs a new carburetor, I understand how to fix it. It doesn't take me being a rocket scientist to do that. So we have to find value in things. So real estate, old automobiles, cash, that's where I want tangible goods. Now number 3 goes along with that. It's commodities. So of course I buy gold. I've told you all that. I buy gold every month. Now I'm not saying I buy an ounce every month or 2 ounces every month. I may buy a half ounce. I may buy a quarter ounce. I may buy a tenth of an ounce. But I buy gold. I buy it from Genesis Gold if I'm buying it from online or buying it from a company, or I may go to a local pawn shop, find a good buy, or I've got my fillers out, so then I may have somebody call me and say, hey, I've got an ounce to sell, or a half ounce to sell, or I'm selling a quarter ounce. I'm selling a tenth of an ounce. It doesn't matter to me if it's Asian, Canadian, American. I like American gold, of course, but I will pretty much buy any of it. I bought some Austrian before. So my goal is I want to put commodities tangibly in my hands. When I talk about commodities, another commodity to me is food. I invest in foods. I talked about that with seeds. I talked about that with food. I talked about that with freeze-dried foods. I talked about, just like that calf I just had. That calf will benefit our farm because it is either going to be a bull and produce more cattle, or it's going to be a steer and produce more meat for the freezer. It's all about building commodities too. And when we talk about farms, or we talk about food, or we talk about gold, or we talk about things that can give us value. It doesn't have to be something like it's in the bank. It has to be something that gives us value. Water, food, commodities, gold, bartering goods, cash, those are where we need to invest in. You can't do that unless you have a budget and understand it. You can't do that if your money is all in brokerage firms or Bitcoin, because you can't tangibly own it. So that's the three things that I would challenge you to do. Budget, understand that where your money is valuable, but understand that you need tangible money. You need real estate, you need farm, you need real estate, you need old vehicles, you need commodities, food, gold, and cash. That's where you need to put your investments in right now. Now, this is all opinion. I'm not an investment brokerage firm that gives you advice. I'm just telling you what I do with my money. I want to put it in cash. I want to put it in commodities. I want to put it in self-defense. I want to put it in gold. I want to put it in goods for this farm. I want to put it in food, and I want to put it in water. That's where I focus. If we teach our children that, if my kids understand not to borrow everything and to pay for it when you get it and to save, they're making that first step possible. Then secondly, if we have money, we can't just put it all in stock and Bitcoin. It's great for a little bit. It's nothing wrong with having investments. Those are good to have, but let it not be your main source of income. Look at some kind of tangible goods. And then we talk commodities. We have to look at taking care of our family. There's nothing more important than being able to defend my home, to raise food, to provide clean drinking water, and to provide cash to be able to utilize in a parallel society. That's what it actually means to be free, to live in a parallel society, to understand this not just about CBDCs or Bitcoin or living with brokerages giving you money and you don't have access to your own funds because you have to wait on this check to be sent from the stock market fund. Have tangible goods, guys. It's just my thoughts. While we're watching the world fall to pieces, look back at home. Inflation still sucks. Employment's still up. People can't afford homes. Interest rates are still high, and we're spending trillions of money. We're in deficits each and every year. So we got to start balancing our own budget, and hopefully when we start balancing our own, we'll start having good stewards to go to Washington and balance their budget as well. Your thoughts, let me know what you think about this video. I didn't say you have to buy a 100-acre farm, 50-acre farm, 10-acre farm. You make a co-op, buy an acre with someone and start growing food. You make a co-op and buy gold together and y'all could split it. You make a co-op and all go live on a 5-acre parcel, put tiny homes on it, and raise your families together. We've missed out on that because we all want the quote-unquote American dream, and it's to live in full debt, have vehicles that you can't afford, live in a house that you can't afford, and try to live on Social Security when you get to an age where you want to retire. That's actually not the American dream. The American dream is you take care of your family and do whatever it takes to do that. Maybe your kids live right there on the same land and you all farm together. You all grow food together. You all work together, live in 1 or 2 homes, and have a great relationship where you can put your monies together and buy things that can benefit everyone. I have a dump truck, that old dump truck. I'm not the only one that uses that. Anyone in my family is welcome to it. We have a cattle trailer. We went and picked up some sheep for a family member the other day. He didn't have to buy a cattle trailer. He could use mine. So when we learn to barter, when we learn to help each other, then we're building the true parallel society everybody wishes they had, because that's what real freedom is when we learn to help people, live together, co-op together, and understanding tangible goods, tangible assets are way better than just debt or money you can't actually tangibly hold. Guys, let me know what you think. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.
You and I can weather any storm.